Izzy, the whole of Bath is falling over itself to promote its connections with the aforementioned Jane Austen. Everybody's celebrating her 250th birthday and the fact that she spent at least 5 of the years of her life in this wonderful city. Then up I come to number 1, the Royal Crescent, to find an exhibition which is actually very pointedly saying, and I'm quoting something that's behind you, Jane Austen didn't actually like living in Bath.
Yes, well, we are also celebrating Jane Austen and her 250th birthday, but I think it is very important to look at the whole story and investigate what Jane actually felt about the city and what her life was like here, because it wasn't all roses. She had quite a hard time, especially towards her end of the time in the city. And if we're going to understand Jane Austen, we need to understand the whole of it.
Do you think her attitude to the city was very much influenced by the fact that financially the family was falling down, wasn't it, rather? And wasn't it in Bath where she actually had a proposal of marriage, which she rejected?
It was while she was living here, but it wasn't in Bath. So it was when she was staying with friends in Basingstoke or near Basingstoke. So it was during her time living here, but it didn't happen here. But at the same time, it was quite crucial that it was indicative that she said no, because she didn't have a sure financial footing, and it would have been very beneficial for her whole family if she accepted that offer, because the man who proposed was wealthy and it would have set up her sister, her mother and father for the rest of their lives. So it shows her strength of character that she went, no, I'm not going to be happy there, I can't do it, I'm going to say no. Or she said yes, slept on it, went, no, I can't do that. Said no the next morning, and then her and Cassandra went home very quickly after that.
But am I right in saying the family's income did fall during those 5 years?
Yes, so Mr. Austen retired as rector's vicar of Steventon, and his son James took on as curate. So he still had a pension, so not huge amounts, but enough to live on. But when he died in 1805, that was when things took a real turn, because that pension went the moment he passed, then that stopped. So Mrs. Austen, Jane and Cassandra, who were both unmarried daughters, they couldn't earn their own living. They had nothing, essentially. Mrs. Austen, Cassandra had a little bit of money. Jane had absolutely nothing, but no regular income. So they then had to rely on the brothers in the family, each to chip in to provide for them, essentially. And yes, so they were moving to progressively cheaper and cheaper accommodation before they left to go to Southampton to stay with their brother Francis, and then eventually to Chawton.
That must have affected the way she felt and her mood.
Absolutely, and not just that, but the way that they moved to Bath in the first place. It wasn't a happy time for her. So her parents decided they were in old age, they'd had enough hard graft of the rectory living, because they were in the genteel class, but they weren't wealthy. So Mr. Austen was a vicar, but they also ran the vicarage as a small holding. He had a boarding school for boys. Mrs. Austen mucked in with kind of the farm work. So it wasn't an easy life for the family. They wanted a nice retirement in the city. So they decided to uproot, up sticks, and just move everything without any thinking about what Jane and Cassandra wanted.
So they were moving from what Jane might have thought was an idyllic rural environment to what would have been for her the big city.
Absolutely. At Steventon, she had time to kind of tuck herself away and write, and yes, a lovely rural setting. And then to be moved to a busy, noisy, smelly, smoky city, it stopped her. It stopped that quiet that she needed to do her writing.
But come to this exhibition and you will be surprised, maybe, if you didn't know, and I didn't, she actually did start writing something here.
She gave it a go. So she started a novel called The Watsons while she was living in Bath. But she didn't get very far. So she got the first kind of few scenes. She writes about the first ball at the start of the novel, and then just stops. And she never picks it up. She took it with her. We still have it. So she didn't scrap it. She kept it with her. But when she went to Chawton, she revised all of her earlier manuscripts. So she wrote Northanger Abbey, Sense and Sensibility, and Pride and Prejudice, or original forms of that, in Steventon before she moved to Bath, and then took them round with her. And then when she was back in Chawton, she revised them and went back to them. And actually, Northanger Abbey, she tried to get published while she was in Bath, sold it to a publisher, they did nothing with it. But she always went back to the work she'd already done, whereas the Watsons, she didn't. And
we don't know why.
We don't know for definite. There's quite a big indicator. So the Watsons, the main character, Emma Watson, had been grown up with rich relatives that had come back to the family. Her father was a vicar, a rector. She had multiple unmarried sisters. She herself was unmarried, and the inheritance that she thought she'd get from these rich relatives suddenly wasn't going to happen. And we don't get very far, but Jane told Cassandra what she was intending for the novel, and then Cassandra passed that down to their nieces and nephews. And the idea was that the Mr. Watson, Emma's father, was to die, and she would be reliant on the income of her brother, or her brother, to support her. And then that happens to Jane in 1805. Her father dies suddenly. He was an old man, he was quite frail, but he got a fever and within 2 days had passed away. So it was a very sudden thing to happen. And then suddenly she was thrown into this massive financial uncertainty and reliant on her brothers. So you kind of look at it and go, perhaps it just got a little bit too close to home. Yes. Life was imitating art a little bit too much, which might have been why she just couldn't go back to it. The feelings were too raw. There are some other theories that she wrote a too well-developed character in Emma Watson, and there wasn't anywhere to go with it, but she could have gone back and revised it later on, and she didn't. So I think, it was possibly a mixture.
Your exhibition is entitled The Most Tiresome Place in the World. Now, we don't know that Jane actually said that to anyone while she was in Bath, but she certainly gets one of her characters to say that.
Yes.
Do you think that is Jane saying it?
I mean, it's said in a slightly tongue-in-cheek way. It's in Northanger Abbey, so it's Henry Tilney saying it, and he's talking to Catherine Morland about staying in Bath, and she's very enthusiastic, going, who would ever want to leave Bath? It's the most amazing place. And he's like, a lot of people, they come for 6 weeks, they extend their stay, and then they realise actually it's too much. There's not as much variety as London. So even in the novel, it's still a kind of tongue-in-cheek way of saying it. And when she was writing Northanger Abbey, she'd been to visit Bath a couple of times, and for all intents and purposes, she enjoyed it, but she got to go home. And that's, I think, the difference. Yes. Visiting is wonderful. You get to go to the shops. When she visited, she got a long shopping list from all of her sister and her friends, like, can you get me this, this, and this, because obviously shopping wasn't as easy in those times. And then got to leave. Whereas when she was moved to Bath, you kind of need to look at Anne Elliot and Persuasion to get the feel of what Austen was like, what felt like when she was living here. In the same way, Anne Elliot was forced to move to Bath by the decision of family members. So
Indeed.
Sir Walter Elliot, her father, had overspent his income, and they had to essentially rent out their family estate and come to Bath, where they could live cheaply but look like they were still holding that standard. Anne disliked Bath. She associated it with the death of her mother, because she was sent here to school shortly after she'd lost her mother, and was brought to Bath, where she didn't want. She had to leave the home that she loved, and in this stilted society. And through Anne Elliot, you get various comments. It's like she had something like a silent but determined disinclination for Bath.
I hate the place.
Yeah, a little bit. So you kind of look at that and go, I wonder if that's Jane speaking. So she's speaking in both of them, and it's two different parts of her life.
Izzy, you know your stuff. Now, I know I'm coming and disturbing you while you're rushing, trying to get everything ready for tonight's special preview, which I can't attend because I'm going somewhere else. But what would you like people in general, when this is open to the general public, to get from this exhibition?
I would like them to feel like they've delved a bit deeper. So you have, yeah, everyone is celebrating Bath in this year, or celebrating Jane Austen in Bath, I should say, this year especially, but throughout all the years, and that's fine. That's great. She set massive, large chunks of her novels in this city, more so than any other real place. So it had a massive significance on her, and the reason why we know a lot about that time in Bath was through her novels. So it was massively influential. So we have every right to celebrate, but we have to kind of take in the whole story. So if people come going, yes, Bath had a massive influence, but it was more than just a happy time for her. There was a lot more going on, and we get a lot more depth and knowledge about Jane from it.
I get the feeling you're very close to Jane Austen. And a little birdie told me, didn't you actually have to appear at Jane Austen at some point?
I have appeared as Jane Austen on a few occasions through the years, so I'm very close to Jane Austen. I'm also a Hampshire girl, come to Bath. Before my role here, I was collections officer at Jane Austen's house in Chawton. So hence that's where my knowledge came from. And I was there for a long time before that. So I've grown up with Jane Austen, but I stayed in Bath.
You're very modest. Izzy, thank you very much. You know your stuff. It looks like a great exhibition, and thank you.
Thank you.